In this video, I will demonstrate how to import the trial balance into EasyFS financial statements. The steps involved in importing the trial balance is as follows. You need to export the format from EasyFS Financials. You'll need to set up the trial balances in the Excel format exported, and then you will import and apply the trial balance. Note that the trial balances are rounded to nearest dollar when imported. It can be further rounded depending on your reporting requirements. Let's look at importing the trial balance using the software. Alright, let's have a look at how you go about importing the trial balance into EasyFS financial statements. So this is basically the initial screen. You need to open a financial statements or a database. I have currently set up a new financial statement. I've called it my company import trial balance so that I can do the demonstration. Once you open the financial statements, you can see the area just here is where the import trial balance functions are contained. The first thing you need to do is to export the trial balance format. I'll export it out now, and it'll give you a message as to where it has saved the file and the name of the file. So the file is open here. So this is basically the format which needs to be used in order to import the trial balance into EasyFS financial statements. So what you're going to need is the account number, account description, and you can import up to 3 trial balances into the system at once and then apply it to the relevant entity. The account numbers must be unique. If the account numbers aren't unique, it will only import the first account and it'll ignore the rest of the accounts. The system also imports the figures to the closest whole amount, absolute amount, or the whole dollar. It does not import and does not work with cents. So what I've done is I've created some trial balances to be imported. I'm looking to import parent entity and also a subsidiary entity into this set of financials during this demonstration. So I'm going to close this down. I'm going to go to the file where I've already set it up with that format. So I have set it up in two formats to be able to demonstrate it. The first entity is pretty straightforward. I'll just open that up. I have included the first entity's trial balance, and I've been able to line up all of the accounts so that it can be imported at once. Now, some of the systems or some of the general ledger systems can actually export up to 2 trial balances. Not too many can actually export 3 trial balances lined up. So sometimes setting it up in this manner can cause a few challenges. So in that instance, what you do is you would set up, now this is entity number 2. What I've done is I've set up each of the trial balances in its own template. So that's the template that was exported, so you can copy that and then create whatever templates which you need to actually import in. So I'm going to see now in this particular entity 82, this is the current year. So I put the current year into the first column. You don't necessarily have to put it in the first column. You can specify which column is current and which column is prior year in the system itself once it's imported. But the reason I put it in the first column is because as I import it, I know that I'm importing the correct trial balance. So I put the current year in the first column and the prior year into the second column, and so forth. So, and that's 3 years. Now each entity you can import up to 3 trial balances, and that is primarily so that you can do the cash flow statement. So now I'm going to go ahead and just show you how you go about importing the trial balance. So you click the import button and it'll open up that relevant folder which is created automatically by the system into the name of the financials that you're doing. and it creates it into an import folder. So I'm going to import the first one, and that's the first entity. So it'll run through the process and it'll say it's completed. Then what you need to do next is you need to set up your entities as well. So you need to set up now in my case I'm having a parent entity and I'm having a subsidiary. If it's a single entity, you just keep the parent or single entity and you will not need this particular entity, which as you do not have a subsidiary. Even if you leave it, it does not cause an issue. These are basically placeholders to hold all the information with regard to a particular entity. So that's the entities which I've created. I've created 2 entities. You can also swap entities if, for example, you would set it up as which entity is the parent and which one is the subsidiary. But somewhere during the year, if you need to, if the control has changed and you need to swap it, you can always swap between the 2 entities. Like you can select the demo, for example, and I'm swapping it with ABC and say swap. It'll swap the entities. What it does there is not just a basic swap, it actually swaps all the data in the system relating to that entity with the other entity, thereby maintaining its connections or its links and its formulas in the actual work papers themselves. So that is how you would go about swapping an entity if you needed to swap an entity after you've imported the trial balance and done a fair bit of the work. You don't want to lose it, so you can just use that function if you have to swap it. It's very it's not common, but if it does arise, you know that the function does exist. So now that we've imported the trial balance, the next phase you need to do is to apply the trial balance. Until you apply the trial balance, the trial balance is not brought into the system. So if I look at the system, now this is the account grouping area. As you can see, there's no trial balance here at the moment. So I'm going to select the apply trial balance. Now in here you have the function. As you can see, it has actually rounded it up to the nearest dollar. You can, and it also has included a rounding account. As you can see, this particular trial balance did not have any rounding with it when it was imported. So it didn't cause any rounding errors. Normally, if there is a rounding error of a couple of dollars, it would enter it into this particular account, and you would go ahead and import your trial balance with this rounding error, which normally gets allocated to general expenditure. For example, it's a rounding error. Now, and then if you need to, you can actually journal it out of that and put it into any particular account that you believe the rounding error has occurred. In addition to that, you can actually round these accounts to different levels. For example, if I want to round to the nearest 10, you can round it to the nearest 10. Now, there are 2 ways of rounding it. One is by leaving the zeros, and the other one is by just taking the zeros off. If the amounts are large, a number of entities would have obtained authorization to reduce the numbers when they are reporting, so that the numbers are more readable and meaningful to the users. In this case, the numbers aren't huge, but I'm just going to round it to the nearest 10, so you can see how the rounding takes effect. As you can see, there's a 2, there's a 7. So I'm just going to hit this one, and I'm going to leave the zeros. So as you can see, it's actually rounded all the figures up. Now, and in doing so, it has noticed that there has been a rounding error. So I'm going to leave that rounding error there, because if I need to, I can journal it in the system after the trial balance has been imported in. So now the next thing you need to do in order to import it is to select the entity you're going to actually import it. I'm importing all 3 of these trial balances to this entity, and these are the periods. So you have current year, prior year, and prior year 1. So I'm going to select the relevant periods for these trial balances, and then once you're done that, you hit apply. You need to apply each of the trial balances individually, and it gives you confirmation that it has imported successfully. So that's it when it comes to importing trial balances. I have imported 3 trial balances for one particular entity at this moment. So let's go back to the account grouping area, and here you can see the trial balances are imported, ready for you to commence your grouping. I'm going to import one more entity. So as you can see, there's two entities. So that's the first entity, and this second entity does not have a trial balance. Now demonstrate the individual trial balances where we could not align it, for example. So I'm going to just import the current year, and it's imported in. So then I can check it again. If you need to round it, you can round it. And it's important for you to always check that this rounding error isn't excessive. If it is excessive, it could mean that your trial balance didn't balance when you were set up, and that could cause you a bit of a headache later down in preparing the financials if your imported trial balance didn't reconcile when it was imported. So that you need to make sure that it reconciles in your Excel spreadsheet. Now I'm going to import this to the second entity, and that's for the current year. I'm going to apply that. So I'm going to go back, and as you can see, we get entity number 2. You can see the current year has been imported into the system. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and import the prior year 1 figures in. So it's sitting there. There was a slight rounding error. That's fine. We'll import it in, set it to the second entity, and it's prior year 1. I'm going to say apply. Now I imported the second trial balance. So as you can see here, let me get to that entity. As you can see here, it has the system itself aligns the figures up based on the account number. So you do not need to spend your time aligning it on the Excel spreadsheets if your system doesn't automatically generate it, the three trial balances lined up. Like I said previously, most systems would line up current year, prior year, but 3 years, not many financial reporting systems tend to do it. Now I'm going to just import the third, the prior year 1 figures in, and as you can see it's there. So I'm going to once again select the entity and specify the period and apply that. Okay, so have a look, and as you can see, if I select the correct entity, all 3 years have been imported, ready for you to commence your mapping and preparing your statements. So that's it basically. It's a pretty straightforward, simple exercise in importing the trial balance.